give me the history of Floyd's Motel. Where did all of this start?
Very good. What we know today as Floyd's Motel originally was a summer home that Mr. and Mrs. Floyd built in 1952. After they retired, they started renting what was then 4 units in this building, if you can believe that. They found out that they could rent, so he was rather ingenious. He came back and divided each of the big apartments into 2. This was a breezeway, so you put a kitchenette in each breezeway. So we ended up here in this building with 9 rental units, 10 counting the office apartment. And then there was a cottage in the back that was for the maids who came in the 50s, the 60s, and the 70s with the families for the obvious cooking and babysitting and washing.
And after they started renting it, and just to get like dates and clarifications, it was built in 1952. They started those operations in the 60s.
In the mid to late 60s. Then that's when I got into the Floyd family. So my wife and I, well, my wife first and our 2 little girls, came each summer to help Mrs. Floyd operate the business. At that time, Mr. Floyd had died. So that went on as long as I was working. I retired, and then Pat and I and the girls moved here to operate the business.
And when was that?
That was early 90s, 1991.
And talk to me about, so for anyone who may not know you, what your relation is to the Floyd family. You said that's when you got into the Floyd family. How so?
Pat is the daughter of the Mr. and Mrs. Floyd who built the building.
And that was your wife?
Pat was my wife. And then we married in 68 and took over the business after Mrs. Floyd passed away in the, in the late 80s. We took it over in the early 90s, I think 1991.
So this has kind of been your baby for decades. Talk to me about what it takes to continually run a family legacy business.
We do very little advertising. We do have a web page, and we rely really on repeat customers, very loyal repeat customers, and of course we get new customers each year. They discover us by word of mouth from previous employees, guests. So that's what has sustained us over the years, and we are very grateful for that.
And with that, you're surrounded now by, this was here many, many years before a lot of these other structures.
Absolutely.
You're surrounded by beach homes, other hotels, high rises. You're kind of in the heart of the North Myrtle Beach area, but it's a smaller building. Does that ever intimidate you, or you're confident that this is where the good
Not
service
in
is?
the least. We are not competing with the high rises. We're here because people come. They like it. They like to sit here on the front porch and reminisce. And I give my wife, again, a lot of credit because she would sit here by the hours talking to the guests. As long as they want to talk, she would talk. So that engenders the kind of activity that we liked, and it has sustained us for many, many years.
And talk to me a little bit about your wife. It seems like she kind of brought that heart of hospitality here to Floyd's Motel. About her legacy, how do you keep that going?
Well, many of our guests remember her and look forward to seeing her, or they did as long as she was alive. She was a Southern lady, low country. She mixed and mingled. She was a little bit on the reserve side, but she had an ability to deal with her guests, which was great. I think some of our guests who are here today can testify to that, but she was just non-pretentious, just enjoyed our guests. And she has been, literally, she has been the backbone to the success of this operation. We have 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters that are waiting in the wind for the next step. Whatever. But that's good. We want to continue as long as reasonable. But I want to emphasize again, we're not competing with anyone. We are what we are. What you see is what you get.
And I think that's a beautiful thing too. You know, when I was speaking with the director, the chair for the Preservation Commission, is a lot of it is out with the old and in with the new. So to see something standing that is so personal to you and visitors in this community is a big deal to be recognized. And you were formally recognized for that today. What does it mean to know that you're just running your family business day to day, but people know what you're doing and what the family has been doing for decades?
Well, it gives me a new perspective. At my age and my past history, I could leave at any moment, but when I think about what we are, how long we've been here, I've got 2 daughters and 2 granddaughters that are in love with Floyd's. It's a sort of a regeneration. Gives me incentive to keep it going. There are constant problems with an older building, no question about that. But we deal with it as necessary.
And have you ever been approached to buy out the building, the land? Have developers ever come to you and been like, let us make Floyd's something else?
Well, as a matter of fact, this year I had an offer to sell, but when I shared that with my 2 daughters, you know their answer? No. So we're relying upon memories more than money. Fortunately, we don't need money right now, but you know, maybe in the future.
And speaking of the future, we've touched on, you know, the past, the present of Floyd's. 2 daughters, 2 granddaughters, several generations of family to come still that love this place just as much as you do, clearly. What's next for Floyd's?
It's a good question. I don't know. I don't have any plans to demolish. I'll entertain any offer to sell if it's reasonable, but I'm at the stage now where I'm involving my 2 daughters more than ever, and much of the decision making is going to be up to them. It's going to be a shared responsibility, but I do rely upon them for the future, obviously.
You're sharing the craft of hospitality and keeping it here.
Yes, exactly.
And is there anything you want to add, mention, include, talk about, you know, whether it be how much you love your guests, anything about the people who work here, anything we didn't get to cover that you want to talk about?
Well, present today are my summer employees, Katie and Brana. They've been a delightful addition to the business for the summer. It's relieved me of having to spend all of my days here. I come as needed. But anyway, I'm grateful for that, and we just don't know what the future might hold for us, but we're ready.
Sometimes there's a beauty in not knowing.
It
you
is.
Just take it day by day.
It is. It certainly is. And again, I don't. The activities of today has given me a new perspective about my position on keeping it or not keeping it, and based on the historical aspects, and there's a good reason to keep it.
People will now know that this is marked as a historically recognized place. You guys have known that for years, but now
I don't know if you heard the earlier interview or not, but one of the things that we're proud of is the fact that in our history we've had at least 2 families of 4 generations. So naturally the older of those have passed on, but that's just an indication of how it is. Once people come and they see it, they like it, they come back. They keep coming back, thankfully.
And you know, to have all those generations, not just to work, it's truly a family business and continues.
It is indeed.
But it's a lot of good word of mouth. It's a lot of people to share about this one quaint place that feels like home when you're surrounded by other rentals.
Over the years, we've had church groups, college, high school, but you know, in today's market, the college kids are really looking for something different, which is okay. One of our big features is SOS. We've been having SOS guests. You know what SOS is?
No.
Oh, well, that's Society of Stranders, and they meet twice a year. The shag dance is celebrated right here, spring and fall, and our book now is practically full for people coming in about 2 weeks now for the fall festival. That is known as SOS, Society of Stranders, and it's a fun thing. They shag everywhere. They shag on the front porch. They shag on the sidewalks.
It turns into a whole dance motel.
Exactly. But anyway, that's kind of, we're looking forward to that.
It really, it's a community feel, whether it's people that are new coming in or people that are returning.
I would say, if I had to summarize my feelings, I would say family and community. That's exactly what we are.
I think that's perfect.
And we want to keep it that way.
As you should. Is there anything else we missed? I think we touched on everything. You did a wonderful job.
Are we still on?
Get him to tell you about Hurricane Hazel.
Oh, Hurricane Hazel. Okay.
Did you hear? You didn't hear that?
Oh, no, I did not hear that earlier. So talking about, I guess, you know, there are ups and downs that come with things, and you mentioned earlier this is an older building. You are beachfront. Hurricane Hazel, what kind
The
of...
building was built in '52, as we said earlier. In 1954, Hurricane Hazel came through South Carolina, came through Myrtle Beach, greatly damaging the waterfront. Well, this building, by the surge, was picked up and sat over in the adjoining lot. The building was not damaged, but the surge, the water, set it over there. And the feature that my wife relates is that many of the appliances, refrigerators and hot water heaters, never toppled. After the water subsided, Mr. Floyd and a house moving crew picked the building up from over there and set it back here on the original foundation. True story. My wife was a witness to that. And that's a little bit absurd, isn't it? Sounds awful, but it's a true story.
But it survived.
Well, it speaks to the integrity of the building. Mr. Floyd was, if 3 nails building were good, he put 6 in, so that's just what he did. It's just the way he was.
It was going to be durable, and there was no question about it.
He built it himself as a summer home, don't forget.
And so he, like, constructed it, like, top to bottom on his own.
It has been renovated since, but he built the original. In fact, the front porch that we're sitting on was not a part of the original. It was added on later.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's a nice, it shows the blend from front porch to back room, keeping the tradition of the old with the new. There's been additives to it over the years.
Yes.
Beautiful. Well, I'm glad that it survived Hurricane Hazel.
A lot of people are.
Yes. Well, and, you know, we've had other hurricanes, thankfully none that have caused major damage in that
We've
sense
not
to it.
ever had major damage from any hurricane. You think about that, that's a record within itself.
Yes.
Hazel left it intact, although it was moved, but Hugo was destructive also, but the building was not harmed.
Mother Nature said that Floyd's Motel is here to stay. She's not going to touch it. It's good.
I'm trusting Mother Nature.